The ultimate signal of power is not what you own, but your ability to remain still. In this explainer, we're going to go deep, really deep, into the hidden mechanics of human interaction. We're going to decode the invisible language that determines social rank, influence, and leverage before you even say a single word. So let's get started.
Just let that sink in for a second. It kind of flies in the face of everything we're taught about showing our value, right? Show effort, be busy, prove your worth through constant action. But the truth is, in that silent negotiation that's happening under every single interaction, stillness, that's the real currency. So this leads us right into what's known as the stillness paradox. It's a really counterintuitive truth about how we all behave, and it explains why the calmest person in the room is most always the most powerful. It's a paradox because it suggests that to gain control, you first have to show a profound lack of urgency. And here's the brutally simple truth of it all. It's not about how smart you are, how prepared you are, or even how good your ideas are. At a deep, almost biological level, your social leverage is directly tied to your perceived freedom from anxiety. This is a psychological thing where these tiny nonverbal cues of calm just completely steamroll any verbal claims of competence you might make. And this is where the paradox creates a real, tangible problem for a lot of us. It creates this constant, unseen negotiation happening just beneath the surface of our lives. It's the reason why so many really competent, hardworking people feel like their contributions just get consistently overlooked. Let's make this real for a second. Have you ever been in a meeting, you're totally prepared, you've got the data, and you present what you know is a brilliant idea, and you just get blank stares? Or maybe a quick dismissive nod and then the group just moves on. And then 5 minutes later, someone else, usually someone who seems way more relaxed, says basically the same thing and suddenly it's a stroke of genius. That feeling, that frustration, that is not in your head. You are being devalued by your own unconscious, low status tells. Okay, so look at this. This really breaks down the core conflict. In any interaction, you've got two conversations happening at the same time. What you're saying and what your body is saying. You're focused on your logic, your expertise, your data, but your body might be telling a totally different story. Your words claim expertise, but your rushing pace screams desperation. You present solid data, but your fidgeting hands are broadcasting a total lack of confidence. And here's the kicker. The group will always trust the nonverbal signals over the words. Always.
This whole thing actually has a name. It's called the ambiguity advantage. In any situation where things are uncertain, our brains look for a shortcut. We don't defer to the person with the best argument. We defer to the person who projects the most certainty by showing the least anxiety. Think about Steve Jobs on stage. He famously used these long, deliberate pauses. When he was introducing something as crazy as the first iPhone, his stillness created this aura of absolute certainty that made something unbelievable feel inevitable. Your calm is seen as safety and competence. And this is where the trap closes. The group reads your low status signal, and they automatically devalue your input. All right, so we've laid out the problem. Now let's shift gears and get under the hood to see how this machine actually works. To navigate this stuff, you have to understand the hidden mechanics that are always at play. So what's driving this whole status engine? It really boils down to three things: resource control, time control, and cognitive load. Resource control basically asks, do you look like you have resources to spare? Time control, are you in charge of your own time? And cognitive load, how much mental work are you making other people do to understand you? These are the pillars, and they're communicated almost entirely without words. Now, here's the master key to all of this. Low observable anxiety is the number one signal. It's the most powerful way to communicate that you have high resource and time control. Why? Well, think about it. Anxiety is your body's alarm system for a lack of resources or control. So if you look calm, if you seem unhurried, the unconscious assumption everyone makes is that you've got everything handled, and that makes them feel safe. And this isn't just a one and done deal. It's a feedback loop that reinforces itself. Let's walk through it. Step 1, it starts when you project calmness. Step 2, the group's brains read that signal in an instant as a sign of safety and status. In response, step 3, they give you deference. They interrupt you less, they give your words more weight. And finally, step 4, that positive feedback lowers your own stress, which makes it even easier to project calm, and the whole cycle gets stronger. See, status isn't just claimed, it's granted and then reinforced by the group.
So if there's one thing you need to burn into your brain, it's this. Your projected anxiety level is your single greatest social vulnerability. It's the crack in your armor. It signals a lack of control, and it makes you seem like a risky bet to everyone else. Managing this signal, it isn't about being fake. It's about mastering the language that the group is actually listening to.
But mastering this isn't just about changing how you act. It's about understanding why it works on such a deep biological level. So why is this system so powerful? Why are our brains so easily fooled, for lack of a better word, by stillness? The answer is all about the psychological shortcuts our minds use to deal with the world.
Our brains are built for efficiency, right? They're kind of lazy. They can't possibly analyze every single piece of data in a social situation, so they rely on these mental shortcuts, or heuristics. A status heuristic is just a quick way to figure out who's in charge. Because of something called the primacy effect, the very first signal you send out, your level of calm, sets the stage for everything that follows. And that immediately triggers the authority bias, which is our tendency to automatically assume that confidence equals competence. Think of the famous Milgram experiment, where people obeyed a guy in a lab coat, a signal of authority, even when he asked them to do terrible things. Calmness acts just like that lab coat.
And here's something you might not realize. When you project calm, you're actually doing everyone else a huge favor. A calm, stable presence is like a gift to the group because it lowers the cognitive load for them. An anxious, rushed person is hard work to listen to. They create stress. A calm presence, though, signals stability. It makes the group feel psychologically safe, and it makes you easy to follow. You're not just signaling your own status, you're actually providing a valuable service.
Okay, enough theory. We've dissected the problem, we've looked at the psychology. Now let's get to the most important part, the practical, actionable stuff. This is the tactical countermeasure. This is how you go from being a victim of this hidden game to being a conscious player who can actually shape the outcome. The main strategy here is something called the Strategic Signal Decoupling Protocol. It's a fancy name, but the idea is actually pretty simple. You have to consciously separate your internal feelings from your external signals. So imagine you're in a huge meeting and your boss puts you on the spot. Internally, your heart starts racing, right? That's your emotional state. The low status move is to let that anxiety show. You stammer, you rush, you look away. But with decoupling, you feel the anxiety, you acknowledge it, but you choose to project calm. You take a breath, you make eye contact, you pause, and then you speak deliberately. You can feel anxious inside, but you can choose to project calm outside. It's not about being fake, it's about being in control of the signals you send. So let's get tactical. First tool in your new toolkit, the 10-second rule. When you walk into any new interaction, a meeting, whatever, do nothing for 10 seconds. Seriously, don't speak, don't rush to your seat. Use that time to breathe, scan the room, make some brief, relaxed eye contact, and just claim your physical space with a still, open posture. This tiny act of doing nothing sends a massive signal of time control and high status before you've even said a word. It says, I'm not reacting to this room is waiting for me. The second tool is the comfortable pause. When someone asks you a tough question, the natural impulse is to answer right away to show you're smart. You have to fight that impulse. Instead, pause for 2 full seconds. 1, 2. Make eye contact, take a breath, and then answer. That 2-second delay signals that you're not reactive, that you're thoughtful, and that what you're about to say is valuable. It forces everyone else to wait on your time. This is the moment control shifts, when you decide to trade your time for silence. Think of this as a simple upgrade path for your signals. On the left, you've got the low status tells you need to ditch. On the right, the high status signals to replace them with. So instead of that rapid, please like me nodding, use a slow, deliberate nod. It says you're considering, not just agreeing. Swap out apologetic language like, sorry, just a quick thought, for direct statements, here is the key issue. And trade all that fidgeting and rushing for absolute stillness and a measured pace. And, probably the most important one, stop feeling like you have to fill every silence. Learn to own the pause. So as we start to wrap this up, I want you to stop thinking of these as just a bunch of tips. This is a whole new operating system for how you interact with people. Think of it as the stability mandate. And at the heart of that new operating system is this one core strategic insight. Volatility is vulnerability. Stability is the ultimate power resource. It signals control, it signals safety, it signals authority, and it's the foundation that all real influence is built on. So, I'm going to leave you with a question to really think about. Think about your own life, your meetings, your conversations. What would happen if you made a conscious decision to trade your impulse to speak quickly for the power of a deliberate pause?
What changes when you decide to trade your time for silence? And by doing that, you signal that both are incredibly valuable. Because in a world that is completely obsessed with speed, with hustle, with constant motion, the true differentiator, the ultimate signal of power, is the ability to intentionally, strategically, and unapologetically move slow.